Hi, this is Karen O'Brien, and I'd like to do a kind of quick or easier video to show you how to import from DAT files. Have a few videos online that show you this process, but they're kind of long, and I thought that we could shorten this up, simplify it. So let's start with a coordinate system. So if you don't know the coordinate system of your project, go search my YouTube channel for Where in the World Am I? Watch that video to get an idea. We know our project coordinate system is this one right here, EPSG 2223. We'll click OK because this is our self-help kit that we'll be working with. Close this message. Don't need that. That's not important to us. And then we start with a new project. So we need an empty project to import our project into. So we create an empty GeoPackage. I'll just use this name, but I'm going to modify it a little bit because, so let's say project and then imported DAT files. Okay, that means that we are using the self-help kit, but we're importing it from the DAT files. And now you can see it's building a blank GeoPackage. And if you come back here, you can see that that is right there. Always best to try to get the GeoPackage if you can, because GeoPackages have all of these user layers and DAT files have mostly schema layers, okay? So it's always better to try to get the GeoPackage if possible. All right, about this dialog, okay, you see name of the project, the projection, and the units. So we are using feet and CFS, okay? You don't need to enter this information, but it is helpful if you pass this project down the road and somebody needs to ask you a question about it. Not necessary to do it. It's not mandatory. We do see our plugin version, so we know we're using Gila 2.0. This is our Flow2D build. It says version not found because it's not in our lookup table because the version I have installed on my computer is too new to be in the lookup table. So what is that looking for? It's going right here to your Flow2D Pro folder, and it's looking for this, and it's looking at a file date to tell you what version you're using, okay? And then what is not important? This is not really important. We don't really use it. It's just a placeholder. And this is not important because we're going to be importing our project. So we just click OK, and then the plugin loads, and we have a couple of messages to close, and then we can import our DAT files. See? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, in the Flow2D, or sorry, excuse me, in the self-help kit, I've been working on all of these projects. I use them for testing, I use them for training, so there's always some good data in here. And it's complex data. These are not simple projects. What I have in here is the last webinar that we did. I did a quick run. So if the model can run, so if you go to summary.out, and if the model can run, that means that that data is at least passing all of the Flow2D tests. That may not necessarily mean that it's perfectly correct, but it's passing all the Flow2D tests. And so what we do is we copy this path. So I'll copy that path, come back to the Flow2D plugin toolbar, and we import from DAT files. Okay. And if I paste that path right here and hit enter, it takes me right where I need to go. Select the cont.dat. That is a pointer file because what it means is it's going to load everything. It's just going to point it to there. But why do we use cont.dat? Sorry, let me get this guy out of here. Why do we use cont.dat? Because if there is no cont.dat inside of our directory, then it'll give you an error message saying it couldn't find it. So we may as well just point it to cont.dat. What are we not importing? That's kind of important. We are not importing fplane.dat, cadpts.dat, or neighbors.dat because the FlowPro engine created those. So they should match what's in topo-mannings.dat. Okay, topo and mannings.dat. And let's see, where is our topo mannings? I guess topo mannings is not in here because that's a default. We always import topo mannings, taller, and cont. So these are just component switches. If I click OK, it starts the import process. You can see it starts with importing the grid, topo, and mannings. That's topo.dat, mannings.dat, and buildings, ARFs, levees, and the storm drain, of course. Everything gets imported. This message says that there are some I clicked no on that button. There were some outfalls and and some junctions outside of the grid because that is our main self-help kit, our advanced self-help kit shows you that that's a possibility. That's why we put those outside of the grid. I don't know why you get this message right here because there's a lot of files that weren't loaded, but for some reason it's like, oh, we couldn't find these guys. And it makes you like, well, did I mess something up? No, you didn't. It just shows you this dumb message. So we'll sort that out. Maybe in another year or two, we'll remember to sort that out. Okay, click OK. And now the next step is to complete the user layer functionality because you can't edit you can't edit Flow2D data if it's not part of the user layer. And this is where we need to probably do a little bit of work on the plugin. So if your channels are not perfectly straight, if they share banks, like the right bank has 2 cross sections assigned to it, you can't use the schema button. So we need to sort that out, but by just importing like the X dash cross sections. But we're going to skip channels for this video. We'll take care of that in another video. And then we'll do computational domain, boundary conditions, floodplain cross sections, hydraulic structures, and then the storm drain is already ready to go. It already gets imported into the correct layers. We can also do levees. If you want to modify your levees by adding to them, then you should also do levees. And we'll go ahead and click OK. And that will finish the process of converting the data from schema layers to user layers. Click that guy right there. And you can see that our grid was dissolved into our computational domain. Our hydraulic structures were copied into the user layer so that you can now add to and take away from and modify your hydraulic structures. Our levees were copied to levee lines in the user layer, so you can now add to, take away from, or modify your levees. And our storm drain was already imported correctly. So the channel, if you want to edit the channel, it needs some work. And if you want to edit the buildings, I recommend that you just download the buildings and reprocess them, or maybe edit them using different methods. So buildings are not converted over to user layers because that process would take a really long time on a large project. And I think that it's better to maybe just export out those buildings and into their own data, and maybe just add, if you need to add new buildings to that, just do it sort of by joining the 2 tables together. So if you need some help with that, just let me know. I'll show you 3 or 4 different methods that make that work really easily. And then channels, again, if you have to work on a channel that you've imported, again, just contact me. We'll show you some methods to help with that. Okay, so what do we have here? We have floodplain cross sections. They imported correctly. Let's see. Yeah, you can see those. You can see the user layers versus the schema layers. So everything is ready to go. If you were to export this right back out, you would see that the DAT files would be essentially the same. So that's it for importing from DAT files.